make sure that this is recording. So obviously we are preparing for examinations. Mathematics is what we'll be looking at in today's lesson, and mainly let me just do these just so that I do not get disturbed. Okay, so mathematics paper 1 is what we're going to be focusing on. So just a quick question, were you guys able to catch up starting from 3:30? Were you able to find the content under the link that was sent in the group 3:30 today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100%. So how it works is, Buddha, now that you guys were able to do a revision, this is a time where you are welcome to ask any question based on what you have been catching up, and most importantly, based on what confused you or what needs clarity. But before we go through all the questions that you might be having, there is a document that I sent in the group. And very quickly, I'm just going to discuss all under question number 1 and just quickly explain to you how you approach those type of questions. I will just randomly select questions. So remember, in case if you've got a question, a suggestion, or just a comment, make sure to unmute, mention your name, and I will recognize you. So let's see. On that document that I sent in the group, it also has a memo. I made it very much easier for you to be able to use it. So there is a question which is allocated only 2 marks. Remember, guys, at all the times in maths, we always look for the brackets. If you remember BODMAS, it starts with letter B, B for brackets. We always look for the brackets. So in this case, one may be tempted to say that by that, that by that, that by that, that by that. You need to understand in which cases do you do that. In this case, you won't do that because the whole of that is equated to 0. Only if it was not equated to 0, that's when you're going to do that by that. So that means in this case, that's where you take the whole of that and equate it to 0. Then you say, or you take the whole of that, you equate it to 0, then you solve for x and say x is equals to whatever. You solve and say x is equals to whatever. So if it was equated to 9, that's when you're going to do that by that, that by that, that by that. Then you take it to the other side so that you can equate it to 0, then factorize, and then get to this part. So that's how you work out that first question. I'm not sure if you guys understood. I'm not sure if you guys have got a question on that one. Was it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100%. So I'm just going to remove all of that and move on to another type of a question. So let's say, for example, especially this question where you are having that, and they say this is equals to 0. Sometimes they can say, leave your answer to 2 decimal places, whatever the case may be. So the moment you see this type of a maths problem, ask yourself this question: is this an equation? Yes, it is an equation. Why? Because you see an equal sign, which means you need to solve. But now, what type of an equation is that? Is it a linear? Is it a quadratic equation? Then, because the letter has the highest degree of a power of 2, it means it is a quadratic equation. Once you know all of that, you need to write it in the standard form. This is the standard form. So that means it has to be in that format of a coefficient x squared, bx, and then you have a constant. Everything must be equated to 0. Only if it is equated to 0, that's when we say it is in the standard form. Once it's in the standard form, every time when examiner says that, it means Bosisi way, you cannot factorize that using your head. It simply means you cannot use those lower methods of factorizing that. And again, it means your final answer is going to be in a form of a decimal, of which they want you to round it to 2. So remember, guys, this formula which says x, it's equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. This formula, you need to understand where it comes from. It actually comes from that standard form. This is where the formula comes from. So what they did, it was to try and make x the subject of the formula. So that means they tried to take that to the other side, somehow divide by that b to remove it, and then somehow to remove that a, and somehow to remove that squared until they end up with x on the other side. And as they work it out, it ended up being equals to all of that. That is why you can only use this formula when dealing with a quadratic equation which is in the standard form. I do know very well that it's very much easier for you to work it out until you say x is equals to whatever, correct to 2 decimal places. Very, very much important, that one, ladies and gentlemen. Again, anyone who's got a question, or did that make sense to everyone? Okay, 100%. So very, very quickly, let me try and look for another question, an interesting question. So here we are having another type of a question. Remember, honorable members, the main aim is just to guide you in terms of how you approach different types of problems, not really to solve the problems. So I have sent a memo in the group, which means you need to try and work it out till the end. And if you fail, that's when on our next live lesson, you're going to ask questions based on what is confusing you. So you firstly do a revision where you go through all the recorded lessons related to what is going to be discussed on that specific day. Then during a live lesson, which is what we're doing now, that's when we discuss all that you might be wondering. And then once this is done, you are therefore going to have the last part of today's business, which is to catch up. I think it's going to be the functions, which means tomorrow we are going to be looking at the functions. Remember, it's maths week. So let's see. Now you are having that type of a problem. One thing for sure, it is a maths problem. But now, because you see an equal sign, it means it's an equation. So what type of an equation is that? Is it a linear? Is it a quadratic? Because of that square root, we are not yet sure. So that means you need to remove that square root. Then you'll be able to know what type of a maths problem is that. So that means every time when you have an equation that has a square root, you need to isolate that square root, meaning move away everything and remain with that square root. This is what remains. You already have x on the side. You take that to the other side, it becomes minus x. So you did that so that you can square both sides. Why did you square? Is to remove the square root. So that means you now remain with that because the square root is removed. That too it means two of the same thing. That's what it means. Can you see? In maths, you always want to remove the brackets. That's when you're going to do that by that by that, that by that by that. And then that's when you're going to have a quadratic equation, of which that quadratic equation, you need to rewrite it in the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. And I'm telling you, with this one, it is possible to factorize it using your head. Then, once you find the factors, because it is a quadratic equation, which means you are going to have obviously a two answers. So that means you're going to say x is equals to whatever, or x is equals to whatever. Between these two answers, one of them could be applicable and one of them could be a non-applicable or not applicable. So that means, for example, if you got 2 there, let's say you got a 4 there, you might need to take that 2, substitute it there, and also substitute it there, and check if you get equal answers. Maybe here gives you 17, here it gives you 17. Then you know x is equals to 2. That one is fine. But when you substitute 4 there and there, maybe this side it gives you 19 and then here it gives you -1. That means this one of 4, it is not applicable. That's where you see on the memo they do that. They cancel it to say x, it is not equals to 4. Or otherwise, if you don't cross, that means where you have x, it's equals to 4. Then you need to continue to say not applicable. That's if you don't cancel it. So do not cancel and still say not applicable. So that you cancel or you don't cancel, then you say not applicable. That is why that question is allocated 6 marks. Not because it's complicated, but because it's a lengthy calculation. Anyone who's got a question, honorable members, before I move on to the next type of a maths problem? Or was it clear to everyone?
Yes, it's clear.
Clear.
Okay, 100%. Remember, guys, it might not be fully clear to everyone, but just be aware that certain problems are approached differently. Then, once we are done with this lesson, it could be tomorrow or sometime during the week, try to redo those questions and check the memo. Where it confuses you, then on our next lesson, we are then going to discuss that. Most importantly, honorable members, here we've got another type of a maths problem. So remember, I'm just guiding you in terms of how you answer certain types of questions. So let's see. This is what we are having. It is a maths problem, one thing for sure. But now, what type of a maths problem is that? Already you can see because of that power of 2, it means it's a quadratic. So if you have letters, for example, letter X, and the highest degree is 2, it means it's a quadratic. If there was no 2 there, but it was just that invisible 1, then it means it's linear. So if 2 quadratic, and that 2, it means you're going to have 2 answers. X is equals to whatever, or X is equals to whatever. If it was 1, that means it's linear, therefore one final answer where you say X is equals to whatever. Most importantly, because you see that sign, which is an inequality sign, that means this type of a maths problem, it's what we call a quadratic inequality. Quadratic because of squared, inequality because of that inequality sign. So it's an inequality and it's a quadratic inequality. So we know in maths, where there's smoke, there's fire. This is the smoke, the bracket. So we need to quickly fight that fire. So let's see. That means we are having x squared greater than. This is where you can say that by that, that by that. What is that? I think it is 3x What is that? 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3, it's 18. So that means we are having 18 there. So remember, because it is a quadratic, you always want to try to have it in that standard form of a quadratic. It doesn't matter whether it's equals to, greater than, less than, greater than, less or is equals to, greater. You always want to have it in the standard form. That's if it has positive a squared and it follows that format, and you have whatever the sign there, everything must be equated to 0. That's when you know it is in the standard form. So that means in this case, honorable members, you need to take that to the other side. So that means you're having x squared, and then that you take it to the other side, it changes a sign, it changes a sign. This one, it does not change a sign, but it remains. In which cases does that change a sign? That's if, for example, maybe you're having negative 2x squared minus 7x plus 7, let's say less than 0. Only if you need to remove that negative, because now it's not in the standard form. Remember, it's in the standard form when you have positive ax squared, whatever sign bx, whatever sign c, doesn't matter what the sign is there, and then everything must be to 0. So now that you need to remove that negative, it's more like you're saying you divide by negative, or you change every sign there. So you're going to have 2x squared. This one changes to plus 7. That one changes to that. This is a sign. That's why it has to change. That is the only situation where you change that sign. But when you transpose, when you take something to the other side, it does not change a sign, because you are not changing anything. You are just transposing. So let's see. Now that you are having this, it's in the standard form. That's when you can factorize. Maybe let's see. When you factorize, maybe you're going to have that and that. What is it? Is it going to be 6, I think, and then 3? Yes. Bigger number takes the sign of the middle term. For us to have a negative there, that's if you multiply by a positive. This is what I did, honorable member. When you factorize, you obviously have that and that, so that gives you that. Then you say, which two numbers can give you 18? It is 3 and 6. So from those two numbers, the bigger number, it is the one that takes the sign of the middle term, always. This is the bigger number, which is negative 6. Then you ask yourself, for you to have that negative, is it if you multiply negative by negative? No, because it's going to give you a positive. So if you say positive times negative, that's when it gives you that negative there. So once you have done all of that, that's when you get what we call the critical values. So the critical values, it's more like you are saying, can I temporarily use, or can I for a moment use equal sign and say the whole of that equals to that, the whole of that equals to that. So that means x plus 3 equals to 0. When you solve, x is going to be equals to negative 3. Also on this side, you're going to have x being equals to positive 6. Then you wanted the critical value so that you can represent them on a number line. You are having negative 3 there. You are having 6 there. Most importantly, honorable members, if you are having that sign, which is just, it could be greater than, no, this is less than, it could be greater than. You have the circles which are not shaded. But if it was greater is equals to, less is equals to, it was going to be circles which are shaded. That is the difference between the two. If you remember, I said there always at that stage where you factorized, when you look at that sign and is that one of a greater than, that's where you always have those pointing outwards. But if it was less than, that's when you are going to have that circle and a circle which are joined. That is the difference between the two. If it was greater than or is equals to, then it's shaded. But because in this case it's just greater than, you just have those circles and pointing outwards. But if it was less than or is equals to, shaded and joined. So when it points outwards, the arrows outwards, and you just say X, can you see that arrow? You take it as it is in that direction, and then you use that same value. Then you say, or X, you take that arrow as it is, and then you take that number as it is. Then you are done, honorable members. But if that sign there, it was that of a less than, that means you're going to have a circle, and then you join. And how you represent it, that's when they say X, it's actually between. This thing, it means between. Therefore, that's where you are going to say it's obviously between -3 and 6. I'm not sure, honorable members, if what I've explained there makes sense. Anyone who's got a question, or does it make sense to everyone? Was it clear? Bandla la kaNkulunkulu.
Sir.
Hmm? Was it clear, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, 100%. I'll just quickly remove all of that. And I just remembered, honorable members, I wanted to make you guys aware of something very much important. Remember, guys, if you are having 2 square root of x, let's say that, and then let's say 3 is equals to x, not 0, but x. What I forgot to explain, not necessarily to explain, but to add on to what I've explained on a valid question. Here also, you always want to isolate the square root. So that means you need to move that one away. So you remain with 2, which is equals to, you already have x. That's why you start with x minus 3. So when I say you square both sides, honorable members, this 2, what it does, it is to square that, and then it is to remove the square root. So that means you actually have 2 squared in 2x minus 1, which is equals to 2 of the same thing. So that means this one alone, it's 4x minus that same thing. Then that's when you can say that by that, which is 4x minus 4. And then at the same time, you do that same 3, which is x squared, is going to be minus 6x, then it's going to be plus 9. Can you now see? You've got that power of 2, meaning you might need to then have everything in the standard form. Most importantly, it's still fine if you put 0 on this side and say x squared. Why would you do that? It's because you realize already on this side x squared is positive. That's why you take everything to the other side. Why? Because it's already then that means you're going to have that. Then when you take this, it's minus 4. So that means you're having minus 10x when you work it out with that. And then this one, it becomes plus 4. Then it becomes a 10, 13. Then it becomes 13. So the whole of this thing, honorable members, it is the same as x squared minus 10x plus 13 equals to 0. So it's more like we are saying x is equals to 2. This thing is the same as 2 is equals to x. You are just rewriting it nicely in that normal format so that you can easily say you factorize everything equals to 0. So that's what I wanted to explain. You say that is the case when you are having a number there. Very, very much important, honorable members, on that one. So now I'm just going to remove all of these. I hope you guys did understand what I was trying to explain there. Maybe very quickly, let me try to explain a simultaneous type of an equation. Then from there, I think we might need to move to another type of a problem, or look for similar questions. Remember, honorable members, I'm just assuming that we have done all of this since we started on the 2nd of January. So what we are doing now is just a revision. So just make sure that in case if you've got any question you ask, and do not allow me to continue without you understanding. So let's see. When you are given something similar to this and they say simultaneously solve for x and y, that means they are saying solve them at the same time. Solve for x and y at the same time. So now you've got this type of an equation. You also have this type of an equation. This type of an equation is what we call a linear equation. Why? Because all the letters are to the highest power of 1. And then the second equation, you can see you've got some letters and the highest power is 2. That means this is linear, this is a quadratic. It's easier to manipulate linear because linear is less complicated when you compare with that. So that means you can try to derive equation number 3 using the simple equation where you can make x the subject of the formula. You start with whatever that you found there. 1 is the host, and then -2, it is the visitor, because this is where it belongs. It just visited that site. So now you've got your equation number 3. Then this is where you say, I'm going to take that equation number 3 and substitute into equation number 2. So that means where you see x, you are going to substitute the whole of that as it is. So that means you are therefore going to say, where you see x, this is where I see x. You're going to substitute all of that. You're having a squared there. Then you're having a y squared plus, then you are having 3. What is x? X, it is 1 minus 2y close, and then plus y, it's equals to 0. So remember, honorable members, I think I forgot something there. I just noticed now, which is something that can easily be forgotten. So can you see, x is in the middle. So there you are having y on the outside. Remember to plus with that y there equals to 0. This is where I want to explain, honorable members, to say, try not to confuse yourself and write it as 3y into 1 minus 2y. I think it's easier when it's written in that way. It's more like you're having 2 into a p and then x on the outside. Still the same, even if it's x p2, or still the same as x2 and then p. But we know very well that to write it in a normal format, you start with a number, a letter, and then whatever inside the bracket, so that you can say the whole of that times whatever inside. So just be careful of that, honorable members. So now can you see, you've got 2 of the same thing. And then you can now multiply 3y by all of that. Then you have everything in terms of y. So that means, firstly, you're going to be solving for y, where you're going to find, let's say, 2 answers of y. Why 2 answers? Because this equation, it is a quadratic equation. So that means you're going to take that first y value, substitute it there so that you know the corresponding x value. You take that y value, substitute it there to know the corresponding x value. That's why you will see in the memo, they might say whatever x value and its corresponding y value, it is that. They'll be referring to that. And then again, they're saying whatever x value, its corresponding y value, it is that one there. So that's how in a form of discussion we can talk about a simultaneous equation. Remember, honorable members, you need to work it out, and where you encounter some challenges on our next lesson, then we discuss. Anyone who's got a question, honorable members, or did that make sense to everyone? Guys, up to so far, am I not breaking? Is everything clear on your side?
Yes,
on my side.
Okay, I think there was a confirmation that all is clear on your side. Remember, guys, I will, towards the end of this lesson, give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions. But for now, allow me to just present all that I want to make you guys aware of. So I think just to revise the laws of exponents, you will need those at some point in your exam paper. So let's maybe make use of this example. Remember, guys, I won't work out all the problems, but I will just touch on those that will make me to talk too much and mention all that it is important. So let's see, honorable members, at all the times, when you are given something similar to that, ask yourself this question: is this an equation? No, it's not. Why? Because I don't see an equal sign. So that means every time when you do not see an equal sign, just know you are not dealing with an equation. Therefore, this is an expression. And when you have an expression, it means you simplify. To simplify, it simply means this big thing, try to write it in its smallest form. You look at the bases, you realize the bases are in their smallest form. But most importantly, guys, always when you have a sign of a plus or a minus, either at the top or at the bottom, it could be 2 to the exponent x, 4y over 2 minus, let's say, 8 to the exponent y. For the fact that you have that sign, just know you're going to take out something as a common factor, they cancel each other out, and then something cancel each other out. Just be aware of that. So that means, for that reason of you having this sign of a plus or a minus, already you know you're going to take out something as a common factor. That is why you're going to expand all of that and now write it as that. I hope you guys still remember the laws of the exponents. So obviously you can still write 1 there, it doesn't matter. So here you just expand that. So that it is that. I'm telling you, honorable members, when you look at that, you will notice a common factor, which is that 3 to the exponent m. What remains, honorable members? It is actually that 3 to the 4 minus 6, which is multiplying. That one, you've taken it out, and then you remain with 3 to the 1, which is 3. Here, you can't take out anything as common factor because you don't have a sign of a plus or a minus. Remember, honorable members, you only take out a common factor between terms that has a sign of a plus or a minus. So now, you will notice that this cancels with that, and then that, what is that? Is that 64 or 16? I'm just not sure. Let's say 64, or is it 32? What is it? I know that by that, I think it's 80. No, that can't be 64. I think it's 32. What is it, honorable members? That one, what is it? Is it 18? I think it's 18. So here we have 7, which is multiplying by 9. Maybe let me take out my calculator. I see you guys are still.
So it's
Charlotte, were you trying to give an answer there? Rosie speaking. Rosie?
3 to the power of 4 is 81.
3 to the power of 4 is 81. Okay. That one is 81. This one is 18. Yes. What about this one? 7 times 9. That is 63. Nay. I think that is 63. So that means 81 minus 18. What is that? That is 60. So it's more like you are having 63 over 63, which is equals to. So that means the whole of this thing, it shouldn't scare you that much. Just be aware that the whole of that, it is actually the same as 1. But you need to show all these steps so that you can score all the marks allocated to that question. Anyone who's got a question, honorable members, or did that make sense to everyone? Tsepambuwale, did that make sense, honorable member? Akanya, I see Utembele is on the line. My bets. Kamva Johnny. Does it make sense? I think it does.
On my side.
Okay. 100%. So now I will just remove all of that very quickly. And then from there, let's see. Maybe let's try to have a look at something similar to that. Very quickly, honorable members, when it comes to solving the problems, this is how I've always looked at it, to say, if we have, remember, we always have a base and a power or exponent. So if your base is a number, and then on your power you have, it could be a number and a letter. For example, here 4 to the exponent x, and that could be equated to whatever, meaning equated to whatever. This is where now I will need to use the laws of exponent. But in case if that is there, meaning if I have letter as the base, and then I have, what is it, number as the power. The laws of exponents, you might not necessarily need to consider that. For example, this one is the same as that one. You have the base being the letter, and then you have that, which still could be equated to whatever. In that case, it's 8. So someone might be confused in terms of where do we use the laws of exponents and where do we not use the laws of exponents. This is what I'm trying to explain there, Lichumida, to say, in this case, you won't need to apply the laws of exponents. But this is what you can try to do. Remove the power. So that's where now to remove the power, multiply by something that can cancel that. So that means you can multiply that 3 over 4 by negative, so that that negative and that cancel. And then by 4 over 3. Why would you do that? It's so that negative cancel with negative, that divide with that divide with that. But remember, whatever that you do on the left, you also do on the right. Exactly the same thing on this side. So that means you have removed that power there, and you just have your x, which is equals to, punch that on a calculator, and then you get your answer there. That's how you score yourself maximum marks for that question. So I think that one, honorable members, whatever that you are able to hear, try to work it out on other problems and see if you can survive. But now, let's check this one. Let's check that one. So here, honorable members, you realize the letter is in the form, in the exponent position. So how about we try to rewrite that 4 as 2 to the exponent 2. Obviously, you have x on the outside minus that and that. So can you see, I'm trying to apply the tactics of the loss of exponents, because I realize a letter is in the position of the power. So let's see, honorable members, you might realize that you actually have 2 to the exponent 2x minus 2 to the exponent x, which is equals to 2. But actually, let's see. I'm actually realizing something there, honorable members, to say. How about we try to rearrange this thing and write it as 2 to the exponent x times 2 to the exponent x minus 2 to the exponent x, it's equals to 2. This thing, it is the same as that, it is the same as that, it is the same as that. Why am I saying that? Because when you multiply the same basis, you add the exponents. X plus x is 2x. So this is where you can use let, normally they use k and call it the k method. You can say let k be equals to 2 to the exponent x. Doesn't matter what letter you use, but sometimes they refer to that as the k method, where you say there where you see 2 to the exponent that you put k times, you see there also k minus, you see there, and then it's equals to 2. K times k, it ends up being k squared minus k, because you realize it's a quadratic. Take that to the other side, and then that is equals to 0. Then you factorize, and then once you know what k is equals to, or what k is equals to, then you're going to say 2 to the exponent x is equals to that whatever. Then you now use the loss of exponents to finalize that. You also do the same there to say 2 to the that, maybe here is 2 is 4. Then you know 4 is the same as 2 to the exponent 2. That means actually x is equals to 2. I'm just giving you guys a guide in terms of how you approach this type of problems. So the moment you have something similar to this, just try to remember or check if somehow you can try to apply the K method, where somehow you rewrite it accordingly and then replace that with K. I'm not sure if all of you guys understood what I've done there, honorable members. Did I not lose you there?
No, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Before you let k equals to 2 exponent x, why don't we take out the common factor, because you have that sign of a negative?
Okay, let me do that. So, but just to give you a summary, it's going to be a long drive because you are still going to go back to that stage. Let's maybe try to work it out and see how far we can go. So yes, honorable member is correct. We have that as common factor. Then we have that minus 1 there. It's equals to 2. So can you see row Z? You won't say this is equals to 2, that is equals to 2. Only if here everything was equated to 0. That's when you're going to take it out as common factor, knowingly that you're going to say that equals to 0, then you say or that equals to 0. But because it is equated to 2, that means you will need to work it out. It is not yet in the standard form, or it is not yet factorized. So it's more like with us taking out this as common factor, it's more like we are factorizing a row Z, and you only factorize if everything is equated to 0. But let's check. Can you see row Z? Now that we have taken out that as common factor, what would be the next step? Or do you realize what I'm talking about? Because now the next step, you still need to say that by that by that, so that you take this to the other side. Do you get it, Rosie?
Yes, I understand now. Thank you so much.
Okay, 100%. So now, very quickly, let's try have a look at another type of MS problem. So let's say, for example, we are having that, and then we are having that. Can you see? In this case, you don't have a sign of a plus or a minus in between. That means here, you don't take out anything as a common factor. But this is where you obviously have a 2 to the n plus that. You just need to rewrite everything in its lowest form. So you are having that. And this one, it ends up being that by that by that, meaning you actually have 2n plus 2. The whole of that, this one, what is that? I think it's 3. No, 2 to the 3. I think it's 2 to the 3. Where it ends up being 3 times that times that. Where you can therefore say 3n minus 3. I think it's easier when you just focus on what is at the top to say you are having 2 and then you add all of that, which is that plus the whole of that being that over 2 that. It doesn't matter which way you work it out. Then you work out all of that, which is that plus that is 3 and that plus that is 4. Yes. So that means you actually have a, what is it? 3n plus 4. I hope I've done it correctly. Yes. Then once you have done that, then next step, you take this to the top and you just have that 2 because it's the same base. And then you write that as it is. And then these are the visitors. You know they change the sign. That changes the sign. And you end up having this cancelling with that, and then you end up having that plus that being 7. So it's more like this is actually 2 to 7. You punch that on a calculator and then it gives you whatever. Then you are done. Can you see? You did not take out something as common factor. You only take it out if you have a plus or a minus in between, and you still need to work out the bases to their smallest base. Did that make sense, honorable members? Did everything, everyone understood what I was doing there?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe very quickly, let me try pull out this type of a question. And then from there, let's see, we'll say we have concluded on the simultaneous equation. This one, it looks like it's easy, but it's allocated 6 marks, which means possibly it's a lengthy calc. So now also you have a linear, because the letters are both to the power of 1. So you need to decide between this one and the other one. Which one are you going to make equation number 3? So look for an equation that has x or y as just one letter, and you can see it is that one. So that means you can use that to derive equation number 3. So in this case, it's advisable to start with a term that is a positive. Let's say already you have negative 3. This is the one which is a visitor. That is why you write it second. But it is advisable to rewrite this thing as x is equals to positive 2y minus 3. Then call this one to be equation number 3. And this one, yes, equation number 3, but not final. Then you work out or continue with that one. You say, this equation number 3 that I've derived, I'm going to substitute it. That's why they say sub into equation number 2. That means you are now having 2y minus 3, and then y on the other side equals to 20. That means it is that by that, it is that by that. You end up having 2y squared minus 3y. Can you see? That one is on the other side, and because you realize this is now a quadratic, take it to the other side and write it as minus 20y so that you equate it to 0. And then you can nicely factorize there. Then you get y value, and then you also get y value. Maybe y value is 2, 3. You take that, you substitute it there to get the corresponding x value, value. That is why they would say 7 is that, the corresponding y value is that, x is that, the corresponding y value is that. Does it make sense, honorable members?
Yep.
Guys, did that make sense?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100%. So let me remove all of that and check for some more interesting questions. Remember, honorable members, you will never know what will come and the format in which it comes. You just need to be aware of the basics. Maybe let me try to bring this one and let's check. So when I say you just need to be aware of the basics, you just need to remember something, honorable members. When something is written in this format, remember inside the square root, we've got a base being that and a power being that invisible one. Now, that means this thing can be rewritten as 9 to the exponent that 1 over x, which is equals to 4, 3. So now, this can still be written as, let's see, 3 to the exponent of 2. 1 over x equals 2. You can try to find out what is that in a form of an exponent. And I remember the honorable member, let me just check. Someone said you punch that 243 as it is, you say it's equals 2, and then you punch, no, not that. 243, I think now I forgot. Shift. Yes, no, I got it correct. She said you punch 243, you say it's equals to. Then click on shift. Then you click on this thing of degrees, minutes, and seconds. Then it gives you this thing as that format. It gives you that. So that means already you are having that multiplying that. So it's more like you're having 3 to the exponent 2 over x, which is equals to 3 to the exponent 5. Now you have the same basis, meaning that cancels with that, and then you're having that being equals to that. This is where you can now say you're going to cross multiply. Where you say that by that, it gives you 5x, that by that, it gives you 1, and then you want to remove that 5. Then you remain with 1 over 5. Then it's done. I'm not sure if you guys understood what I've done there, especially that part, how I got this thing. Did that make sense to everyone? Members of Parliament, did that make sense to everyone?
Makes sense.
Yes, sir. Mawanse.
100%. I notice an interesting question here. Let's try to discuss it. And then from there, I'm going to allow any possible questions. Remember, honorable members, soon after this, you will then need to take some rest and prepare for the next revision. I'm telling you, honorable members, you might not need to miss this recommended program, because you will have to be aware of all that will be in this program before you write your exams. So it's in your best interest to make sure that you follow the program and catch up, just so that you can have some questions, and then I'm going to clarify those questions on our next lesson. So let's see. There is the question. I found it. It says a square root of that equals to that, and then you are having that, and then that. And this one is allocated 4 marks. There is the square root, it's isolated. There is the square root, it's isolated. So all that you need to do is just to remove the square roots. Then that's where you can maybe try to multiply both sides or square both sides. That's what I meant to say. Meaning the square root falls away. That's how you remove it. It's removed. But here, the tricky part is that someone is going to say 2x, thinking that this is the square root, it has removed that only. But that squared, it also squared that, which is what I try to explain. To say it is now actually 2 squared, and then that removes the square root. So that means you actually have 4x on this side. Then you take it to the other side, you end up having 4, that, you end up having that, then you might need to factorize that. X, I think 5 and 1, they will end up giving you that. Remember, bigger number takes the sign of the middle term, meaning there it's minus. For you to end up having negative there, that's if you multiply a plus and a minus. So can you see? X equals 2, negative 1, or x equals 2, positive 5. Then substitute that there and also there. Check if it gives you the same answer. Substitute also that there and there. Check if it gives you the same answer. If this one does not give you the same answer as on the other side, that's when you can cross it and say x, it is not equals to negative 1. If this one, it gives same answer on both, then you leave it as it is. Then you are done. That's how you score yourself full marks. Did that make sense, honorable members?
Yes, sir, it does.
I think it does. So I think I saw something, honorable members. Just hold on for a sec. I want to quickly bring that so that we can discuss. But before I do that, is there anyone who's got a question in relation to that? Or when you were catching up, did everything make sense? Remember, guys, that link where I've prepared all those lessons in just one link, it's going to be there until. I'm just having a question, Charlotte. I'm not sure if you can assist me on this question. Your next revision is going to be on functions. So that means after this lesson, you're going to revise the functions or catch up on the functions, where you're going to have all the best recordings that I would like you guys to watch, so that on our next lesson, we are going to discuss where you guys are having some challenges. So this saves you time to start studying on your own. You just watch. You won't need to be on you study table. Even when you're on your bed, you can just watch those lessons. That's another form of studying. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be writing. So let's see. Charlotte, that's where I wanted to pose a question to say, should I put all in or under one link so that even on Wednesday, if you want to try catch up on maybe functions, for example, you will just click on one same link which has everything, then you will scroll and find it? Or should I separate it and have a link where I'm having only for solve for X, then another link where I'm having functions only, another link where I'm having maybe number pattern, another link where I'm having a what is it? Maybe a probability, another link where I'm having whatever. Or should I just put everything in that one link? You will just scroll down to where you want to catch up. Which one do you think it's better? Option number A or option number B,
Option
based
number
on
B, based
what I've discussed?
option A, sir.
Option A, sir.
I think
Uh,
option A is the best.
I think option A, it is the one that has won the vote. So it's fine. I think let me do it that way. Let me do it that way. I would also recommend that way. So that means even on Wednesday, when I post the content, you can still use that same link to access the content that was posted on Monday. A honorable member like Charlotte. So, Charlotte, even though I'm going to be posting something which says catch up will start around this time, around whatever time, in some instances, you might even find that content before that time. So, just in case if you are upgrading, you might find that content before that time. But I'm just saying generally, considering those who are going to school, um, starting from that specific time, it is the best time to start to catch up. You don't need to watch everything, but just check based on the questions which one do you find the most difficult or interesting. Watch that lesson. If you've got questions, just write down the question itself so that you will say, this is how the question looks like. You're explaining this, and I did not understand that part. It's easier for me to explain because I've done it before, unlike if you asked me on something which I did not do completely. Because these things are hammering honorable members. I may be the tutor, it doesn't mean I know everything. Even with the teachers, it's not like we know everything, honorable members. Especially in my case, for every lesson that I do, I give myself an hour or two to prepare, just so that I know I'm going to deliver an understandable lesson. So, any questions from your side, honorable members, before I ask you some questions? Anyone who's got a question for me or for the congregation? Remember, in case of no question, you can say no question. Let's see. Otembele Pama, did everything make sense, honorable member? And again, do you have any questions for me?
No, sir. All is clear.
All is clear. Bokamoso Mohabi, what about you, honorable member? Kamva,
Yes,
your
please, sir.
name. Okay, then it's fine. This is what I'm going to do, honorable members. This is what I'm going to do. If you are given something similar to that, Very quickly, anyone who would like to explain what we do? We are not writing, we just discuss to say, this is what you're going to do, and this is why you're going to do it. Or this is how you're going to solve it. Just give it a try. It makes it even better when you get it wrong, because we are going to learn from your mistake. Bukamoso, do you want to give it a try, honorable member? Okay, this is what I expected from your side. So you're just going to say, it's in the standard form. Why? Because it's in that format of a squared bx plus c, or c. Everything is equated to 0. Once everything is equated to 0, that means you can, with confidence, factorize and then give the answers. That's all. Let me just bring 2 more. This one, and they say, leave 2. Here they say simplest sort. Just this. Here they say simplest sort form. The word sort form means leave it in a form of square root and not as a decimal. Can you see, honorable members? So that means you will still use that quadratic equation, but leave your final answer as it could be 2 square root of 4, not even 4, but 5. Or whatever the case may be, as long as it is in the form of a square root, you just leave it as it is. Just be careful of that. And most importantly, you need to say that by that, that by that. Why would you do that? It's because you want to have it in the standard form to know what is your A, what is your B, what is your C. If this thing, it was equated to 8, that means you had to take that 8 to the other side so that it's minus 8, and then it makes that to be minus 9. Be careful of that, honorable members. Here is the last one. And then from there, I would encourage you guys to make sure that you catch up. Just so that on our next lesson, you will make sure that whatever the questions that you have, you ask and we clarify those. Also here, that by that, that by that, and then you end up having 4x minus x squared less than 0. Hey. Kwenzeka ntoni apha? This one is allocated 3 marks. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm just wondering what is going on here, because already this has been factorized and you see that it is 0. It seems like what I've done there, it was just a waste of time, because it's still going to take me back to that state. But it might not have been a waste of time. Why? Because honorable members, if I want to rewrite this thing in the standard form, it's actually negative x squared, then plus 4x less than 0. Then I need to remove that negative. So that means I'm having that, here is a minus, and then there it is greater than, because I'm removing that. Then that's when you can factorize. And when you factorize, this is what you are now having. Then you can say, I'm going to look for the critical values. Critical values, that means your x equals to 0, or your x obviously is going to be equals to positive 4, because equate to the whole of that, you solve for x. Now, when you represent that on a number line, you realize you're having 4 there, 0 there, and then 4 there. Can you see this is greater than, meaning it is that which is that, and then you're having that, which is that. Then that's why you're going to say x, you take that arrow as it is, 0. Or you say x, you take that as it is, and then you say 4. Yes. This is an interesting one. Let me check it on the memo, honorable members. For the first time on this lesson, I come across a problem where I'm not confident with. Can we try to check that one, honorable members, if it's correct or not? Where is that question? Okay, that question 1. Guys, can we check the memo and refer and check if that problem is correct or not? Where is that question? Where is that question? Hey, yes, it's correct. Yes, it's correct, honorable members. Yes, it is correct. Were you guys able to confirm that this calculation is correct?
It is correct, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to sign out. I'm just wondering if there's any of you who's got a question, honorable members. Anyone who's got a question? What is going to be the code for today's lesson? I think, let's say, whatever that you were not aware of and you were made aware in today's lesson, comment with that. It's going to be the code for today's lesson. So it's more like I'm saying whatever that you learned in today's lesson, it is the code for today's lesson. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do thank you very much for joining. My name is Desmond, and I'm out. I think it's worth mentioning that. Remember, guys, it's a maths week. Next week, it's going to be a physics week. And then from there, we will be back to our normal lessons. And because we are approaching exams in June, so a timetable has been updated to suit how we are going to be doing lessons. I think Monday and Friday is strictly going to be maths, Wednesday physics. Then on Saturday, it will depend on the chapters that we were doing for maths and physics. The one which was difficult or the one where you guys had some challenges and did not understand, it is then going to be continued on Saturday. If, for example, we were doing a difficult chapter for maths and the one for physics wasn't difficult, then we will do the maths lesson. And then if the maths was enough, we did physics and it wasn't enough, or it was a difficult chapter, then it's going to be continued on weekend. So we tried to spread all the lessons throughout the week so that you are not under pressure of attending all the lessons within the week days. So those are some of the improvements that we thought were necessary, and it also allows you to have an opportunity to attend a maths lesson in case if you missed it on Monday. And again, we are having 2 classrooms. There is one for extra classes. That is where we're going to be doing most of the classes. And then we also have those other classrooms. There will also be lessons in those. It will all depend on the level of your understanding on certain chapters, because only the matric rewrites, they are familiar with all the chapters. But you guys, You might not be aware or you might not be familiar with other chapters. So that means if the timetable says Maths Monday and Friday, Physics Wednesday, even on Thursday, there might be a maths lesson or a physics lesson. It will depend on the Monday's lesson. So the timetable serves as a guide, but there might be some additional lessons just to make sure that you guys understand the concept. Once you understand the concept, it's going to be very, very much easier to continue. So just be aware that we might have extra lessons at any given day. Also, with regards to the tests, at any given day, you might have a test. Some tests might be unannounced. It won't be a test, actually. It's going to be just a quick classwork, which might be unannounced. Won't be long, it will just be short. Tests will be announced. Also, we used to have lessons which are spread over a month. But during this virtual camp, that means all the month's worth of lessons will be squeezed within 4 days. Because on Friday, you'll be writing. Soon after you write, on Friday, we start with another paper. So, honorable members, that means all this week, forget about the normal timetable and just attend maths. I'm telling you, you are definitely going to learn a thing or two. So I think all that I explained, it makes sense. I will just leave it there and say, guys, thanks for joining. Have a very good night.